Are you thinking about learning French? Before you dive in, there are essential tips and tricks that you should know. In this video, I will guide you through the most crucial aspects of French language that will help you to make your learning journey easier and more effective. Hi everyone, you're welcome to my YouTube channel, Monvie. So let's get started. Written and spoken French are different. Actually, this one is a problem for all French learners because French people write in one way but pronounce in completely different one. On one hand, it can really make your learning process easier. For example, let's take nouns I, you, he, she, it. In spoken French, the verbs after them, they are pronounced in the same manner. Let's take verb think. Penser, je pense, tu penses, il pense, elle pense, etc. So you got this logic, right? In spoken French, they are identical, but when you write them, there are already several differences. On the other hand, if they are so similar, how can I differentiate them during speech? Firstly, you should always use pronouns. Like, it's not the same as in Spanish, you can skip them. No, here you should use them. Je parle, tu parles, il parle. Secondly, you can get that, of course, from the context, as always. But with pronouns, it's easier. Actually, for me, this one was a bit unexpected, because in Spanish, you can skip pronouns. For example, hablo, hablas, habla, hablamos, habléis, and all this stuff. But in French, no, because no one will understand who are you talking about. So yeah, as for spoken French, it's really easier if we're not talking about pronunciation for sure. So that's why my advice to you is not to focus on something one, speaking or learning grammar. It's better to combine them. I've been learning French already almost for a year, but I still have these grammar lessons. I can choose any tense and just write several sentences in it, and at the same time, I don't neglect reading or speaking. But as I always say, take into account your learning goal. If you need French just for understanding, you don't need to know how to write all those verbs, with the correct endings and all this stuff, because the only thing that you need to focus on is understanding and listening. Speak as much as possible. With French, it's really essential to speak a lot. Of course, if your goal requires it. So, because spoken and written French are different, as I've already mentioned, you can think that you already know a language just because you can read and understand everything. But when it comes to speaking, you will not be able to speak because you're not used to that. Start speaking when you feel more or less confident, because one more time, you need to pay attention to pronunciation as well. And for this, you need to take some time to listen to this language. But also, don't wait for too long to start speaking, as then it will be really hard for you to start doing that. You're just not used to that and you don't even understand, like, why should I speak if I can understand this and that? But okay, by speaking, I mean not only talking to yourself or to others, but also just saying simple phrases, like construct the easiest sentences at the beginning. One more thing that you need to pay attention for is, of course, French pronunciation. French is about pronunciation. These are nasal sounds and all that jazz. At the beginning, you should listen to French a lot just to get used to this pronunciation. When you practice speaking, check pronunciation of words in which you're not sure. It's better to check the correct way now than to unlearn something, because it's always harder. My short story. I was waiting for 6 months to start speaking in French. Like, before that, I could read text like aloud, to say simple phrases, but it was more about reading, not just, like normal speaking. By speaking, I mean that you talk to another person and you have a normal conversation about something. I was waiting because I was sure that if I don't get French by ear, it means that I can't speak as well. It's not perfect time for that. But now, of course, I get that it has no connection. You can speak and not understand everything and vice versa. It's absolutely normal because the reason why you understand better than you speak is just because you prioritize understanding, like you prioritize consuming information, listening to it. So I think that I could start speaking normally in 4 months, but I was just simply waiting. And it's an example how you should not do. You can't speak in any language until you start speaking in it. It's logical, but for so many people, it's not logical. Yeah, they just forget about this fact. And don't worry about making mistakes. You will not destroy all your French level just by making several grammatical and pronunciational mistakes, because then you can just analyze your speech, for example, by recording yourself. Pay attention to pronunciation. French pronunciation is really difficult. It's the most difficult among other Romanian languages. They can skip 3 letters in the middle of the word, and then the last 3 letters at the end of this word, they can also just fly away. So that's a normal thing in French, just get used to that. But the good news is that it's possible to learn all of that. I did, so I'm sure you can do that as well. Of course, you heard that famous guttural R. Actually, they have 2 R, rolled and guttural, but second one is more used in French language because it's just their thing, you know. So I can say that don't worry about mispronouncing that guttural R at the beginning. Even in time you can have some problems. Oh, and one more thing, if in your native language you have rolled R, it can take quite a long time for you to learn how to pronounce this guttural R because they are completely different. Actually, I remember that it took me 3 months to make my guttural R perfect. Just, you know, like, okay, not to make it perfect, but at least to learn how to pronounce it correctly. There are some words in French that you will not be able to pronounce them with that guttural R. It's just impossible. So that's why they have 2 R. And even natives don't pronounce all the words with guttural R. Mostly in French, last 2 or 3 letters are silent. So you write them, but you don't pronounce them. For example, beaucoup, fait, doit, etc. So overall, it's absolutely possible to learn all of this. You just need to pay really much attention to this during first stages of learning. And of course, listen to a lot of French language. As for allusion, one more thing that is important to know in French language. Allusion helps to avoid difficult vowel sequels and overall makes the language flow smoothly. For example, j'aime, c'est, d'habitude, l'homme, etc. So I advise you to check pronunciation of all the words at the beginning. In Google Translator or on websites, it's up to you, but just do that. And also, don't read from the first days of learning, because you need to listen to this language a lot. When I started learning French, I wasn't reading aloud. I was able to understand texts, but I also understood that I can't read aloud right now because I will make plenty of mistakes. So I was just reading, silently. I was understanding almost everything, and then in a couple of weeks I started reading aloud. If you know other Romanian languages, you nailed it. I hope this one will cheer you up, because learning French, when you already know at least one Romanian language, it will be much easier and faster for you. There are plenty of words that are very similar between all Romanian languages. The only difference is usually in their pronunciation, and French in this list is on the first place because French pronunciation is completely different, completely. Also, as for grammar, there are enough of similarities, and if you understand all the grammar tenses in one language, you can think that you nailed all of them in another one as well. The same 3 groups of words, not the same, but the same number of them. Of course, there are irregular verbs, but even most of them are quite similar. For instance, to be in Spanish and in French is an irregular verb. To go, to say, to do, etc. As for me, Now I know two Romanian languages, Spanish and French. When I started learning French, Spanish was helping me hugely. I was already able to understand French texts from the first days of my learning. So you can kind of imagine how similar these languages are. Of course, I can't say the same about pronunciation. That's why it took me 8 months to start understanding spoken French by ear and speaking it, learn words already with genders. One more important thing, especially if your first or foreign language is English and you didn't have any connections with Romanian languages before. And I know how tedious it can be to remember all these genders with articles. Because in Romanian languages, these genders are everywhere. Each word has its own gender, and even adjectives change according to a gender of the word before them. Oh, and of course, these genders can differ from your native language ones if you have that in your native language. Moreover, they even differ between Romanian languages. So it's really a bit complicated topic, and it's definitely not one of my favorites. For instance, if you want to say a car, in French it has feminine gender. La voiture, in Spanish, el coche, it has already a masculine gender. So if you want to say my car is nice, ma voiture est belle, if I take another word, a book for example, un livre, mon livre est bon, it's the same nice word, but it changed in accordance to the noun. So my advice to you is when you learn a new word, always check its gender before you write it to your flashcards app. Apart from writing this word in context, add its article as well. Definite article or indefinite one, no matter. The main thing that you know the gender of this word, because a gender of a noun influences on adjectives as well. Keep listening to natives. For learning French, you need to listen to it a lot. As spoken and written French, these are two different types of French language, and I advise you mostly to listen to daily talks of natives, as you will notice that they even use grammar how they want. I started listening to French from the first days of my learning. I just found several YouTubers, and every single day I could watch several videos. During first 6 months, I couldn't understand everything, just separated words and phrases, and it was really tough. And now, 8 months later, I finally understand spoken French. Also, I understand music, of course, and movies. But as for movies, I'm kind of surprised because I've just watched 2 French movies and I understood like 95% of it. Usually, you can understand YouTubers perfectly, but when you go to watch a movie, you almost think that, wow, I don't know this language at all. Like, what are they talking about? The way YouTubers speak in their videos and the way actors talk in movies or series, it's different. So that's why I was surprised that I understand almost everything. Also, during watching natives on YouTube, you will notice some grammatical things. That's why I advise to learn any language by watching natives on YouTube. Of course, not only by watching, but it has to be a priority, because if you learn any language by textbooks, you will not be able to know how natives really speak in like day-to-day life. For example, just to illustrate all of this, in correct French, incorrect grammatically, there is nous. It means we in English. For instance, we are running, nous courons. But in daily French, they use on instead, like en cours. And as you can see, the ending of the verb has already changed because it's already another noun. One more thing is skipping non in negative sentences. During writing, you will write je ne mange pas ça, which actually means I don't eat this. But in spoken French, they say je mange pas ça. So they skip this non, and many more things like this. So that's why you need to listen to natives to notice all of this. That's all for today, guys. Thanks for watching this video. If you found it helpful, give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. See you soon in my next videos. Bye!